Welcome to Becoming Bold, a podcast for entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and creators who feel different. In this podcast, we share stories of bold changemakers in a way that inspires, educates, and nurtures others, hopefully you, on your own entrepreneurial journey. We lift up the bonnet on the highs, the lows, and the mentality that's needed to be successful in this space. If you like this podcast, it would mean the world if you would like, subscribe, and just share with anyone else who is on their own entrepreneurial journey. In this episode, we meet the amazing Daisy Morris. Daisy and me met a few months ago when we were both speaking on a panel at LinkedIn. And as soon as I met her, I just thought, this woman is incredible. She is so smart. She is so charismatic. And I'm honestly so honoured to have her as one of my first guests on the live podcast. Daisy is a community growth and content strategist. She is the founder of Selfhood. She is a TEDx speaker. She is a lecturer. She is the author of Community is Your Currency, which was dubbed the Social Media Bible by Refinery29. Very saucy. Daisy has worked with some amazing companies like Adobe, Apple, Instagram, and Selfspace. Daisy is on a mission to make URL feel as human as IRL. So let's jump in. Daisy. Where do I begin? With our love story.
Literally, it's been like...
I wrote you a poem, just joking. But that would have been so nice.
It wouldn't have surprised me. We have that relationship now.
I should have written you a poem.
We can revisit
Next
this.
time.
Next time. We'll do a poem challenge.
We found each other. I got... what's the word? I got drafted in. We found each other 3 months ago.
Literally.
When I got drafted into a very last minute.
Like my whole life.
I feel like I've told you more secrets than like my own siblings. Girl, it's because we get each other and we're on such a similar journey.
We do.
And like the experience is so shared. And
Yeah.
I think it's so important to have people that just get you and that also give you which I really feel from you, give you they don't put pressure on you to be anything. They're just like, I'm here if you need me.
Yeah.
And I support you. But like we're all in this together and
Yeah.
it's really, really important. And I'm just really grateful to have found you in my life.
Same. And I feel like my friend recently described unread WhatsApps and emails as like credit card debt. And I keep using it as an analogy. And you're one person I know who... Also, I love, like, you're a double texter. If I don't reply, you're like, I'm not going to wait for this bitch. Like, I'm
Just go straight in.
I'm that
with a
good.
10-minute voice note.
But I never feel like I have to justify that and apologise that because you're like, I get it. And same with you. Like, they're like, I'm just going to go on holiday and breathe for a bit. I'm like, I never expect a response. And I think the technology demands we have on people now is so intense. So it's really nice that we have a friendship where it's like, you can let it breathe for a bit. And you can also, like, send me a rambling voice note at 10 o'clock at night if you need me. Like, I'm here. So it's reciprocated very much so.
Sticker, sometimes you get those as well.
Oh, yes. I
I
do.
get them. But you know what? I really want to talk about that in a minute, about how addicted we all are to our phones, how contactable we are. Like, but it just shouldn't be like that. I've started putting my phone on Do Not Disturb.
Best thing ever, isn't it?
During the day now. It normally goes on at 9 p.m. And now I'm like, but it's actually self-discipline for me because I feel obliged, especially if it's someone really close to me or someone that I'm in a lot of dialogue with all the time, like my sister, one of my best friends, whatever. But nobody deserves 100% access to you.
Yeah.
So it's like really kind of putting those parameters in place. So Daisy Morris, welcome to Becoming Bold.
Thank you so much for having me.
You are one of the boldest women that I know.
Oh,
You are. You are. That's why you're here.
Thank you so much.
So we're going to go through your Becoming Bold journey
Exciting.
and the ups and the downs and the sideways, to the left, to the right, you know, and
Many a zigzag. So
exactly. So I'm going to go through, I'm not going to be looking at my notes, but I do want to read something out just to set the scene.
Sure thing.
This is a Google review from Corey Fitzhugh. Working with Daisy has been an absolute dream. She got to the heart of my business and values, and the work she has produced has gone above and beyond. I now have absolute confidence in what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. And it has been a complete pleasure working with her. I could not recommend her highly enough. Now, you have almost 60 reviews, recommendations between LinkedIn and Google.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some magic in what you're doing.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Thanks. I work really hard. I think it's really important to deliver on the things that you really care about. And I think that's why it's really important to do work that you really care about. And I've pivoted loads, like from where I was at the beginning to now has changed, because the second that I start to feel like, oh, I'm not sure if I am as invested as I felt initially, something needs to change.
Yeah.
Work is so important to me. I love what I do so much, and it's such a privilege and such a pleasure to do what I do. And you know this, like when you're in service to others and they're invested in you. And I think because I've been there, like I've invested in different services, different advisors, mentors, and some of them have been incredible and some have been really disappointing. And I think when you've been not even burned, that's probably a bit extreme. I've been fairly lucky, but I just think it's really important to do work that you love, and when you do that, it's reflected in the delivery. But I'm sure you resonate with that. You work with people, right? And it's so important that, you give everything that you've got to projects.
Yeah. And I love what you said about acting in service. And I think for me, because I was doing a little bit of, I mean, I know you, but a little bit of background, sussing out, just to understand like how people feel about working with you. And I think that's it. When you love what you do and you really care about it, then it just comes through in the work. It comes through in your own content, how you show up. And that is why I think you are so bold, and why you are so like doing so well is because, and I know like we'll talk about that as well, because there's like doing really well and then there's like, oh my God, I'm maybe having like an internal meltdown because I'm so tired all the time and I'm like churning out content, whatever. But it really comes through when you're doing something that is really mission driven and you really care. It just is a different energy. So you are a TEDx speaker. Amazing. That's so bold. You're an author. I'm halfway through your book. I love it so much.
Thank you.
It's so good. But it's also just like a really long voice note from you. I was like, this better be in Daisy's voice now, or I'm going to have to like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm obviously getting it miserable. I love that it's in your voice. And you are the founder of Selfhood. So who is Daisy Morris?
Is that a question?
Yeah. Take it back. Let's go back before you even set up Selfhood.
I think I've always really deeply cared about people. And I know that sounds like a really like live, laugh, love cliche thing to say, but I think when you look at the clients that we work with at Selfhood, it's deeply reflective of that. So like Self Space, for example, world's first on-demand mental health service. We're working with a wellness cafe that's trying to change people's eating habits and bring more health and conscious eating to the world. Like most of our clients are typically people who help people, female health activists. And I think that people always say that like the people around you are a reflection of who you are. And I think I'm really proud of the projects that we get to work on and the projects that I consult with, because it's most of the time it's like deeply rooted in people, which makes my job so much easier. I think I've always been interested in like the deeps, and I hate saying stuff like that because it sounds really like cliche, but like the deeper stuff in life. Like I've always been like, my mum always says, but you always used to be like, but why?
Oh yeah.
But why?
That's good.
Why?
Because you're smart, that's why.
Yeah, and I just used to challenge like teachers a lot as well, which didn't always go down well. But I think it's important to really challenge your own perspective and the perspective that you're fed. And that's, I know we'll probably get to this, but I think that's the dangerous thing about social media. So I think as a person, I really love understanding how people work, why they feel the way that they do, challenging why people see certain things, challenging the narrative that we're often told in mainstream media, and just encouraging people to make critical thinking-based decisions outside of their friendship groups and what they're reading online. So a lot of my work is about challenging the space that I operate in, which is primarily digital spaces, and how can we use them for good and for change when, you know, they are a bit of a shit show at the minute.
Oh my God,
and I think we're only just really starting to talk about it. But I created a campaign a few years ago called Check Yourself Before Your Notifications. And it's really about checking in with how you think, how you feel about the world before you go and read about it on some mainstream, like major news outlet. But outside of that all sounds really serious. I'm actually quite a simple person. I think I've realised, like, I like being outside in nature. I like having a beer on a Friday, and I love my friends. I'd say that my work-life balance is pretty good. Like, I have a really rich and fulfilled life, not materialistically, but like from an experience and relationship perspective outside of work. And that is so important to me.
Yeah.
It's so important to me. So I love my job, I love my work, but equally, like, I really love my life.
Yeah, that's so amazing. And also, I suppose, being able to build a business that allows you that life, I think for me has been the most important thing. Like
100%.
the kind of corporate grind. And I feel like in the corporate world, I just couldn't be myself. That's actually the bottom line.
Yeah.
Which is probably why I went to the extreme then, and I'm just kind of out here living my wild life.
Also, though, like, when you feel pain from a certain experience, or when you're affected by an experience, how incredible is it that you can then turn that into purpose? Because your job now is to give people permission to be their boldest self, and you've come from a background where that wasn't necessarily encouraged. So I think it's so incredible when people take pain and transmit it into something else, which is what you've done.
Thanks. Yeah, I feel like that is what I've done. And yeah, it was, before I set up Bold, it was a really tough few years, like a really tough few years. And as soon as I made the decision and I actually quit a job I was on a contract, and I was just like, you know what? I'm done. Similar to your experience, which I want to talk about, with when you spoke in the book about you were in this very cool creative job in London.
I've done so many different things. And I was in industry for 4 years, and I think I'm always really keen to reiterate that, because quite often people think of like overnight success, and I think people often forget that, like, I had 4 years in industry before I went to uni for 3 years. Super lucky to have had access to higher education, although I would say I think that whole like narrative around needing a degree is massively changing now, also because of like the economic uncertainty that comes with that. But that's a whole other like rabbit hole. But anyway, complete tangent. I think
that's okay. We like a tangent, you know.
I
am
also a tangent girly. So
girl, I never stop going on a tangent. So just don't even ever apologise about that.
We're all friends here. We know how it goes. But yeah, I had 4 years. I did a creative agency. I worked in-house for a fashion brand. I worked in events and experiential marketing, and I always felt a bit insecure about the fact that I'd had this like real 360 career and never like laser focused. But actually it gave me like a small window into lots of different things, and now I think so much of my work is approached that way. So it's not just like this is a social media campaign. It's like, how does this affect the offline movement? How does this affect your collaboration strategy? How does this affect the journey on your website and like the journey you're taking people on? But yeah, it's similarly to you. I was just really tired. And also I think like really ballsy as well, like entrepreneurship and quitting a job on a full-time salary. I don't think we talk about enough, like just how wild that is.
Wild. Yeah, it's wild.
And such a risk. Like I had no savings. I didn't have... My family are really supportive, but like if it flopped, like it's like I was on my own. I didn't have like loads of cash that I could rely on, or like family that could support me at that time. So it's just kind of like, I just kind of had this like, I just know it will work.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to back yourself. You just got to have like a little bit of audacity.
Yeah, the audacity.
Yeah.
You actually have to have the audacity. And what I think is interesting about, because I was similar, I spent 10 years really in corporate, but I worked in London for 7 of those years. And I just walked around constantly questioning everything and thinking like there has to be more to life than this. I love the vibe of London. I love working with people. I love having great, you know, intelligent conversations. I love business. I love all of it. I love content creation, although it's exhausting, as we know. But I just was like, there has to be a way for me to not have to show up.
Yeah.
9 to 5. Well, it was 8:30 to 6, Monday to Friday, get the bloody tube. And I'm looking around at people on the tube thinking, you're all miserable.
Like a Black Mirror episode.
You're miserable and you're exhausted and the bags under the eyes. And I'm like, I don't want that for me in 20 years. I don't want to go in this direction. And that's why, like, in 2019, I just got this calling to go to Berlin, and I just went to Berlin, and I couldn't even really explain it to people. I was like, I turned 30. I'm done with corporate, but I can't. You did a very brave thing, which is quit your job in London and then be like, I'm going out on my own. It took me literally at least 10 years to feel like I could do it. And it took me a lot of bumps in the road along the way. And it took me inevitably getting laid off from Twitter, because I actually don't know. I probably would have eventually, but it threw me into this space where I was like, I don't have a monthly salary anymore. What's going to happen now? And I had to just kind of lean into the fear. And actually, it's exactly what you said. And this is how I kind of wake up every morning, is like, trust yourself. Because there's days where I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just keeping my head above water. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what my revenue model is, what my business model is. I'm making mistakes. I'm giving away too much of my time to people. And I'm just like, it's going to happen. Trust yourself.
I think the first leap is always the most wild decision that you'll make. And if you can do it and make it work in the first 6 months, I think you can keep going. And obviously, like, actually, I'll take that back. That's very, that was a very blanket statement. Obviously, various businesses are set up differently, and depending on how quickly you scale and how many team members you're responsible for, that can be different. But I think if you are in the driver's seat, which most people building like personal brands, it's like they're freelancers contracting, that I assume will be listening to this, because I know that's primarily your audience. I just think, like, if you are the sole person that is responsible for motivating yourself and getting stuff off the ground, if you can get it started, you can keep it going. You've already proved to yourself, like, it's in the receipt bucket that, like, I have done this before.
Yeah.
And I think the initial part is the most challenging, because that's when you get questioned the most. It's when you question yourself the most.
Oh, yeah.
So out of your comfort zone. And then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, it's been 6 months and I'm paying my rent and I'm paying my bills and it's kind of working. And like, my first year, I earned way less than I did in my full-time salary.
Yeah.
Way less.
Yeah.
And it took a year at least to, like, find my feet and find my groove. And it's been 6 years now, but it's been such an evolution, and so much has changed. And I think it's really important to acknowledge that it's not always going to be an immediate thing, and it's not always going to just jump off the ground. And you have to network, you have to try, like you said, make loads of mistakes, learn from them. But when you look back at it, like, now I can, and I'm still learning, like, I still make mistakes and do stuff wrong, but like, I look at the first like 1 or 2 years and I just think, like, there's so much gold dust and insight in that.
I know. I'm trying to document the journey, because it's just little things, like setting up a business feels like a massive undertaking. But literally, you just need to register if you want to do a limited company. Well, first of all, you just ask advice to an accountant.
Yeah.
You go either freelance or limited company. I was like, I am going balls to the wall in with the limited company. I'm just going full in, because I was fully convinced.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like insurance, getting a business bank account, getting an accountant. And then you were like, I have been working for X amount of years. I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just need, it's totally a mindset thing. You're like, I have to get myself from the employer mindset into now moving to, I offer the same service potentially, but I just take it to businesses and I do it without all the BS basically, and all the overheads, and the fact that I'm only getting a salary for them taking the cut. And now I'm just doing it in a different way. But it's the same thing.
Yeah, totally. And I think, like, I do think it's really hard, because we're not taught anything about this in school. And I think there's a reason for that. I think that from a systemic point of view, it's easier to keep people unaware and in fear. And, you know, that's, again, like another tangent for another day. But I think I felt really stupid for not knowing. And that, like, I didn't think I had to pay tax for my first year. I was just like, I'm just exempt from that. And then I got a fat tax bill and I was like, oh my God, like,
I'm just exempt from that. Yeah.
I don't know why. But I just didn't know. Like, I literally had no idea. And then everyone was like, are you doing your end of year accounts? I was like, what does that mean? And I felt so silly.
No, but I get it. I am laughing out of relatability, not out of judgment.
But it's like, I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And I still find finance really overwhelming, but thankfully, like, I have support now. But I think there's not a load of info out there, and over 50%, I think the current stat is 56% of the next generation want to be self-employed or have their own business. But why is the education system not reflective of that? And then it comes to it, and people make these huge life decisions as deeply courageous, but they're not supported in that way.
Yeah.
But I do think, and I know we're going to talk about community, that is where community is so important, because there are people out there who are also just really, really willing to help when you ask.
Yeah. Let's talk about why you set up Selfhood, because I want to go into the community piece as well. So you moved to London, you were feeling really lonely. You were 23?
Yes. 23.
Yeah.
Didn't know anybody here. All my home, I was the only one in my hometown out of my friendship group that went to uni, and then I came back, was home for about a year, and just felt like this isn't my place. Nothing wrong with it. It's a lovely town, but all of the career opportunities that I wanted were in London. So moved to London, didn't know anyone, and I was quite a shy person. Like, I'm actually just not, even now, like, I'm not super extroverted, but I have more confidence than I did then. And I just enjoy being around the right people. I know how to find my people, and have spent years doing that. So I moved here, didn't know many people, and I always think back to this summer I spent just doing laps over Tower Bridge through to London Bridge just to kill time, because I was like, I don't know anyone, so I might as well just get my step count up. And and yeah, it was around that time I was working in a startup, and it was really cool to see how a business grew from start to finish. I worked really closely with the founder, who exited shortly after I left, but I watched them gear up to investment, and it was really quite an immersive experience into how business works.
Yeah.
And I think that was a point where I was like, I think I could do this.
Yeah.
And I'd worked really hard with networking and built a really strong network, left. And the reason Selfhood was born, the word selfhood translates to the quality that constitutes one's individuality and the state of having a unique identity. And I'd worked with so many different brands and so many different people. I'd been agency side, brand side. And I noticed that, especially on social media, there was this real cookie cutter approach. And I've always been, like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I love to challenge perception and why are we doing this? Who is it for? What's the reason behind it? Can we do something different? Can we think creatively? And social media was such a small piece of the pie. Way back then, it's changed so much in recent years, mainly since COVID. So I started Selfhood, not a clue what I was doing. First year was just keeping my head above water. Tried so many different things, lots of different services, lots of different industries. Worked on some terrible projects.
Oh, God.
And was not even treated so badly, just misalignment of values, didn't work out, but I think you need those. Yeah. And I think people starting sometimes are oh, I feel like I'm not quite getting it. And I'm do the bad jobs.
Yes.
The bad jobs are okay. You will learn so much. And people talk about big brands and glossy clients. You need to kiss the frogs to be able to do that and deliver, and also work out what you're good at and what you enjoy. But it was really born out of okay, I know that I can help people with this, unlocking their own identity and finding a brand that isn't just within the sea of other e-commerce brands. And this was personal brands existed, but they weren't big then. It wasn't, I don't even think it was a phrase that was necessarily used. So it was really just this hunger to just help people do something a little bit different.
Yeah.
And just, like I said, audacity.
The audacity is really important.
It's so important.
And going, and I also read that in the book, not to be showing off that I read the book, well, half the book. You spoke about going out into all these networking events. And I guess that for you, as someone who, as you said, is an introverted extrovert or quite shy, you pick your people, but in those spaces you kind of have to go and you have to have some conversations with people that you ordinarily wouldn't want to be having chats with. And that's all part of it. And I think kudos to you. You did the most. You put yourself out there and you got into these spaces, and that is why you are where you are. And I think all the things you're saying has been similar enough to my experience, which is also just I had loads of shit shows. I tried loads of different things that didn't work. And that's what I also say to people if they talk about I really want to start something, or build a business, whatever, I'm like, just start with something. Just, it's literally taking action.
Yeah.
I set up an Instagram page. It was when I moved to Berlin and I finally had headspace to just think about what I wanted to do with my life. I had moved out of the London chaos. I was super distracted here, even though I loved it, to be fair. But I started just like an Instagram page, and it was just all about kind of well-being, and it was a non-event. Like, I just came up with this random name. I think it was, I can't even remember the name, but it was an Instagram page. It was like me just like sharing random bits and bobs. And I actually think the page never did anything or went anywhere. But that was the first piece
It's a catalyst
of my puzzle. It was that. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I always wanted to have a podcast.
Yeah.
And then I kept thinking, but what am I ever going to talk about? I want to make positive change in the world, but I couldn't, we're always trying to put things into a box where it makes us feel like, oh, I know this topic, I can talk about it. But someone gave me advice once when I lived in Berlin, actually, and he said, his name is Gotts, and we had a coffee. I met him through another London contact who I used to work with, and he said, just keep thinking to yourself that the thing that you're probably creating doesn't exist yet. And it didn't exist yet. Like, no one was doing personal brand building or content creation on LinkedIn advisory services like 5 years ago, really. And if they were, that, you know what I mean? So it's also kind of, if you, similar to you feel something, you want to change something, and it's driven by something bigger, you can totally, like, it will fall into place. But if you take action,
100%. And I think, like you've rightly pointed out, like, just start.
Yeah.
Like, you started with a well-being page, and now, like, the core of wanting to help people was always there, but actually through that you unlocked that you actually wanted to do something a little bit different. And I think like, just do what really excites you and what you feel really interested by, and you might not have a long-term plan for it, but by doing the little micro steps, you do eventually, okay, that was really interesting, that worked well. Look at the threads that connect the things that inspire you and give you that kind of, like, there's a TED talk I love by Shonda Rhimes, and it's called The Hum, and it's about, like, that, like, full embodied experience when you're doing something and you're like, this is it, I'm locked in, I am, like, this is it for me. And I think we're fed so much information about how to live our life, how to monetize, how to make business, and it's just like, you can actually just create your own version of that. And I am such an advocate for the frequent pivot and for zigzagging around. Like, it's fine.
Yes.
Create your own path. Like, it's never been easier to make money, in my opinion, with access to the internet now. I think there's so much room for opportunity.
Yes.
But also, no one's holding your identity to this one pursuit that you're on. Like, if you want to change your mind, change your mind.
Yeah, but I get a lot of that with clients I work with. They're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this one topic because I don't want to be tied to that topic. And I'm like, listen, I've had a whole career of it. Like, I have moved around, I have done recruiting, and then I moved into this, and then I was talking about that, and then I was like, DE&I, then I was at Twitter, and then I was building a neurodiversity platform, which went completely tits up. And I just kept going. I just kept talking about it. I was on the journey, and then I was, of course, thinking, yikes, now I'm going to launch another business, and people are going to be like, what is she up to? She has lost her mind. But it was the complete opposite. It was just like, I always get these messages of like, I've been watching your journey and I love it, and I love the evolution, and it's just so empowering. And I'm like, what? My shit show is empowering?
But I think it's like you've said, like, you pointed out the journey and you've been transparent about your journey. And people I think generally are really supportive.
Yes.
And your every move is never going to be as microscopic to everyone else as it is to you. Like, people just aren't studying, not you as an individual, just us in general, as closely as we think they are. So if we want to change things up slightly or do different things, I also think, like, it keeps things fresh.
Yeah, that's
for you,
that's very true.
And the people's.
And it also shows people that you don't need to have everything figured out, because it's so boring. Like,
so boring.
It's so, like, I had this client once who kept comparing herself to her sister, and her sister had just this very, totally perfectly fine, but very, very clear path, worked at the Big Four, got promoted every 18 months. And she kept comparing herself. And this woman is a wild, amazing, the ultimate bold woman. She was my first client. She's incredible. But she kept comparing herself to her sister. And I was like, you have worked for the UN. you've been working with people in prison in South America, and you're now an entrepreneur solving like a really big problem in the world. Like, you're incredible. You're exactly what we want. Building your brand, sharing content on LinkedIn, like not someone who's at a very linear, everyone is entitled to share their journey and their personal brand, but it's like people we're really hung up on what perfect looks like and how we need to be perfect. And I actually think the most chaotic, unhinged stories, content, whatever that looks like. I had Amy, as you know, from Candid here earlier, and like, oh my God, just her career path and how squiggly it was. My own career path has been totally all over the place. And like, that's what's really inspiring for people. And the like humility and being open and vulnerable, not sharing your whole private life online, but, sharing the vulnerability and the openness. And like, I think it also makes, from a community point of view, it makes people really invested in you and your journey when you are sharing it, basically.
I think so. And like, as you rightly pointed out, like the squiggly bit, that's the fun bit. And so much of what we're taught about career progression is so archaic and so outdated. Like working 9 to 5 was brought around in the Industrial Revolution to try and get people to work harder. And it's just like, especially for creative people, I'm realizing now, and I'm being way more forgiving of myself of this, that working flat out 7 hours a day, it just doesn't work for me.
No.
Give me like 3 hours of pure creative energy and I'll get it done in the same time. And also, if I want to start at 11 because I want to go to the gym or go for a walk before to clear my head because I've been doing events all week, that's what I need to do. And I think we're so tied into this idea that you have to be doing X amount of hours or producing X amount of things each week. And like, we are such cyclical and seasonal beings.
Oh my God.
And it's absolutely fine to take some time to recharge and give yourself like creative thinking time and move, like have space from your projects and then come back to them. It doesn't mean you're abandoning them. It doesn't mean that you're non-committal. It just means that you're giving them space to breathe and flourish. And there is so much demand on us as people to exist in the world, to be financially stable and emotionally stable in a time of deep political and economical unrest. And it's like, it's a lot. It's a huge demand to then expect people to churn Monday to Friday. It's like that we need a collective reset anyway, but like, give yourself some like credit.
I know. You know what? You're making me feel really good about myself right now, because you're so right.
But you're also like someone that's so deeply in service and you give a lot to people. And when you do have a job that is a lot about giving and looking after other people, it's a lot of energy.
It is a lot of energy.
And then to create content on top of that and to be a good friend and reply to your like, it's a lot. It's
and
a lot.
the whole, what you said as well, like if you were an empathetic person at all, or if you care at all about other human beings, and you're watching the news right now or for the last however long, and you're just like, this is devastating. And the empathy, it's devastating what's happening in the world for women, for people of colour, for anyone who is, let's say, from the global majority, underrepresented community. It's so hard. You said something recently, I don't know where it was somewhere, maybe it was at one of your events, and it was about how, like, when you go on Facebook and you're just like all this rage bait, and it suddenly occurred to me, because I've had a real problem with Facebook for a long time. First of all, I can't with Mark Zuckerberg. Like, I'm very open about how I feel about that man. Every single thing on Instagram now is a targeted ad, and the targeting is perfect. It's perfect.
Have you heard about the book that the whistleblower's released? I forget her name. I'll have to link it in the show notes, but she's ex-Meta. She's just written a book about all of the like secrets of the algorithm, and there was one that was when a young girl deletes a selfie from her story or like from their feed, within 30 seconds they'll be served a beauty-based ad.
Yeah, I think I saw that.
It's so dystopian that we live in that world.
Disturbing. It is disturbing. I am convinced he is at he's a lizard, but he is the actual, like, he's the worst of all of them. He's the reason that all the other assholes are in power.
Oh yeah.
So 100%. I get so irate about it, and like I can't even. And then I'm like, you know what? But I also wanted to ask you about this because I'm like, I'm building a business and I'm like, do I even need to have Instagram? Now, the thing you said, going back, sorry, I'm heading off on a tangent about the rage bait and all that stuff that's on Facebook. Because what I was finding is I would go on Facebook and I would see all the headlines and the headline will be like, you know, I don't know, maybe it's a picture of a black woman and it's like, oh, Irish woman, something, something. And then I dip my toe into the comment section and I'm like, I actually feel sick.
Yeah.
I'm like, if she's Irish, she's Irish.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just stuff like that. I'm like, who are we? We're the OG immigrants, by the way. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, and probably even by talking about this, I'll get some shade and whatever on my podcast. But I'm just like, what is going on with the world? So on one hand, like I'm building a whole company on a social media, building your brand on LinkedIn and building a social media presence. But on the other hand, I'm like, we need to find tools that are safe for women, that are safe for people from underrepresented communities. I do believe that LinkedIn is one of the better tools. No tool is perfect. But because there's this level of accountability, you are tied, you're verified, you're tied to a company potentially.
Yeah.
Like, so that does make it safer. And we also have learned, well, I've gone on it because of you, I think, Substack, and because of Amy Kiernan, my business coach. And it's just those platforms just feel so much safer.
Yeah,
they
are. They definitely are. I think that, like you say, it's the accountability, but I also think the people who are typically on those platforms are talking about professional or like Substack is quite a creative space, but it's usually business owners, authors, writers. So a lot of the content on there has been like a week of writing versus like a flippant statement on Facebook status. So it's more, I think they're more curated spaces. I think there's a really interesting study that came out in early June this year from Deloitte, and it's really interesting about how so many people are deleting social media apps.
Interesting.
And Gen Z are actually in favour of a social media free world. We often cite Gen Z as the generation that are most phone addicted and social media obsessed, and they're the ones that say we actually don't want social media in the world. So I think there is a very small movement happening. I think it's a trend. I think it's a shift in behaviour. And I think people are becoming more increasingly aware of just what social media is doing to them. I saw this meme and it was just like, we are not designed to see a thirst trap, a war-based headline, and an ad for skincare all within the same 30 seconds. Like that is literally a fast track to irreversible brain damage.
Yes.
And we're not asking these questions enough yet. There's some amazing activists in the space. Jonathan Haidt, Haidt. I would love anyone to go check out his work. But I think what we're seeing is micro communities birthing. So offline events doing really well, Substack doing really well, WhatsApp groups. I call them intimate spaces in my book. But I think it's not the end, and there's still a space for social media. And I think we can curate algorithms, like people are calling them digital gardens now. And there's so much beautiful content on social media, and there's some incredible activists and people that just share really positive and uplifting things. Unfortunately, it's really difficult to ignore the hate. So I think it's not necessarily about, oh my gosh, I built my whole business on social media, what do I do? I think it's just about being strategic about like podcasts. I was saying to you before we came on, they're so good for longevity and evergreen content, and people stumble across them like years later. So like podcasts are amazing, Substack's amazing, WhatsApp groups, community groups, and just spaces that like emails, like you own that data, just spaces that aren't reliant on turbulent algorithms, because it's also just like, it's so draining and it's a lot to just consume like so many different things within like 30 seconds of being on an app, and it's like, whoa, I've seen so much already.
I know, and our brains cannot.
We're just not designed to consume in that way. And I love social media. I think it's so great for connection. It's so great for discovery, but it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. It really is. And you know what I love about you is that you are working in this space. Your empire is built on helping businesses utilize social media to grow, but you are such an active voice around obviously all the stuff we're just talking about, but around using it in a human and in a like effective way that is not going to completely destroy our souls.
Yeah.
And I love the campaign you did. And it's funny, I actually think of you now most mornings, because when I wake up, yeah, I do. Because I wake up and I'm just so conditioned to grab my phone.
Yeah.
And I say to myself, check yourself.
A few people have said that, and I'm
swear to
so
God.
glad, because it is a really good tagline just to keep front of mind. Or even like 9 o'clock at night, you're just about to get in bed, I'll just quickly check my email. I was like, no one is gonna like die if you don't reply to this email at 9 p.m. Like, it can wait till tomorrow.
Exactly. And it's like, check yourself. Like, and I do this. I'm like, how does my body feel right now? Because unfortunately, and I need to change this, I have work and personal on the same phone. I am going to change that soon.
Yeah.
But, you know, sometimes I get WhatsApp from clients, whatever, they can message me when they want, but the SLA is 24 hours. So I'm like, I don't need to look at that. Like, but it's a problem that it's in the same space. Now, I've deleted my LinkedIn off my phone because I'm like, I don't need to have access to that. And that was actually revolutionary. It's kind of like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
My phone is my phone, but like we are all quite addicted to our phones. And I'm speaking as an absolute phone addict.
Yeah.
And for me, with my ADHD brain, it's like I need the dopamine. I'm walking around, and whether it's putting on a song, putting on a podcast, but it's just, again, checking myself and being like, do I really need this? Or would it be better for my brain if I just sit in a little bit of calm and silence and not have the scrolling? Because when you even observe your eyes and your brain, and it's scrolling and scrolling, and as you said, and I also read this thing, and it was like our brains can't tell the difference between real life and what we're looking at. So if you're watching a really horrific video of whatever's happening in the Middle East, which we've all seen, and it's like, oh my God, this is the most disturbing thing I've ever seen in my life. And our brains like traumatized, basically. And I mean, whatever about, like, it's a privilege to bear witness to that rather than being in and among it. But like, we just have to be really mindful about how we're ingesting this.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm 8 months into my business and it's going well, but like it could be better always. You are the absolute queen of helping businesses grow on social. So if you were to give me one piece of advice as someone who's like churning out content, I have a system in place. I don't even know where to begin with advertising. As I just mentioned, I hate Mark Zuckerberg, so I'd love to avoid giving him a penny.
Yep.
So do you have any advice for me?
I always advise that people use social media as the vehicle to connection. So people will meet you at an event and then they'll probably look you up on social media just to verify who you are. Based on that, I always say quality over quantity. Produce content that feels really in alignment with who you are now and who you're going to be next year. Don't just create stuff because it's trending. Don't just create stuff to get it out. I would rather go on someone's profile, see 3 posts in the last year, but have real thought and meaning and depth behind them than 3 a week that are just like flash in the pan, baiting the algorithm, because that's just not how it works anymore. My book's called Community is Your Currency, but actually my 2.0 is like connection is your currency.
Yes.
And like online communities, great. They're amazing for awareness. But I think what people are looking for now is people who walk the walk and talk the talk, who deliver great work, who have referrals, who have testimonials, who can back up what they say, because there's a lot of people doing this. But when you say, where's your cred stack? Can I look at your like client reviews? They're like, I haven't got any. So I actually think like building meaningful connections and being able to back up what you say with really strong content that is representative of what you really care about, way more important than frequency. And that is, a lot of people will say that's the wrong way to grow. I don't think growth matters anymore. I think using socials is almost like a portfolio and building real connections and building trust. Like, we're in a trust recession, and rightly so. There's so many people talking and promising and I'll make you 7 figures in the first year without anything to back up on. So I think work on really connecting with the right people, building trust, and just doing a really good job for your current clients.
Yes.
And having a great portfolio and great credentials behind you, because anyone can be anything on the internet now.
That's so true. You can be anything on the internet, but it is about the essence of you, understanding who you are, what you care about, and then turning that into whatever that looks like for your brand.
Yeah.
Daisy Morris, you are amazing. You are the ultimate bold woman.
Thank you.
I'm so honoured to have you. And
Thank you for having me.
We will pick this up again.
We will.
We will have to do a part 2. There's so much.
So much to say.